Bro, somebody tell Boldy James to lead a booth. Bro, go home. Bro, already wilded out last year with 4 projects. All of them were top notch. Now he already getting started in 2023. Yeah, you think him getting in a car accident would slow things down a little bit, but nope. Dude probably in the ER, doctor trying to ask the man what his blood type is. He probably responding 227 Concreature. You know, he in album mode still. I don't know, dude might have sampled his heart rate monitor with the way he been working. But Boldy James become one of the most consistent rappers, not just in Griselda, but overall. He's really found a cheat code with these one producer projects, and he has a really good ear for beats, and he know what complements his style really well. Really excited to hear what RichGaines got. Let's get straight into it. Oh, I like this, the store, the sample right here.
Where we at?
It sounds really good under these vocals.
So purpose of this is to motivate. What's the ticket? Shit we can negotiate. Take a toke of the law while I pour the drink. White gold on the dollar, my rolly face.
This is a sick flow.
No break dancing.
The storytelling too.
I heard a broke bitch big capping, catch 100 gram crackers down. 90-day run. Now I'm back in town with a honey bun, no cap and gun. The play together with that Jackie Brown.
Bro, he does really good with taking one little scheme for multiple bars. He talking about smashing down graham crackers, which he's using, I think, to talk about breaking down a brick. And then he took that to the honey bun line, playing into that.
4 O's out of Audi truck, putting work together, had to clean it up.
Come on, man. 4 O's in the Audi truck, 4 ounces, and you know how Audi got those 4 rings.
Judge gave cuz 120 months, bro. Gave me the plug, told me keep in touch.
Super vivid. Yo, this girl Cassie Joe Craig sound great.
Took it out of town in the drought. How you right-handed, but you left foot stepping on shit. Don't get stumped on. Get you stampeded from them tech bullets.
See, this is another example of that scheming that I'm talking about. He started with 2 left feet, then he talked about stepping on the code, then getting stomped out.
But I was trying to make the scale tighter. T, the niggas looking for me. I ain't hard to find. I'm on hell block with the concrete.
Hey, that's a super strong opener. For one, that beat is fire. I love the sample itself, especially those keys, and then I like the distortion that RichGaines put on it. The beat felt slow and methodical, and that played right into Boldy James' delivery. His rapping was really precise, and it did feel methodical. He also flashed off some dope flows. This was a flow I haven't really heard him get into, but it was super smooth. Imagery fire. I like the storytelling, especially on that second half of the first verse where he was talking about a relationship with one of his business associates. He got locked up but gave him the plug. That level of detail is what really sets him apart in a really crowded coke rap lane. Tough song. This is Dopey. It's the same sample as Blind Threats by Schoolboy Q on Oxymoron. I like the sample itself. Let's see how RichGaines finna flip it.
No cat really so dope my whole life. When Muddy Dad dinner pulled out
like
the
it.
whole pint. Brody touch him up north, he a Mobite. We're serving Dopey in them 7-door Snow White. 25 for
That's
the
a
Percocets, I've
tough
been no
line. Selling Dopey and selling the 7-door Snow White. He was selling that heroin. He was selling that cocaine.
Pig pen status with the hogs and the low lives. Free all my 7-mile doors screaming for life. Bro coming home, I pray
The bells on this sample go hard.
With them blue beans and them glow lights.
That's a tough verse.
Jubilee band when Scully died, I wanted guns like 2. We ain't gotta compete, we can call it a scale mate. Bruno come with the Kel-Tec and all hell break. Making
The scale
sales off the
mate.
scale phone.
Scale
Smart
phone.
nigga keep his elbows docked in the scale boat. My back shaking like a Richter scale.
I like this little scale wordplay right here. Only problem I got with that song felt super short. They could have went on for another minute or 2. Really strong verse from both Boldy and Mikey Rocks. I think Boldy had the better verse. He's a better rapper too, but it's dope hearing them 2 on the same song because my introduction to Boldy James was actually through Mikey Rocks. Him and Boldy James' cousin Chuck English had the group The Cool Kids together, but it was cool hearing Mikey Rocks in this lane because he's normally more in a laid back, light-hearted. He raps about clothing, cars, bicycles. Haven't heard any drug rap from Mikey Rocks outside of maybe an offline or 2. So he sounded menacing both from the content to the delivery. Boldy James did his thing, of course. I like this flow that he got on this song too. And then the coke rap, super vivid. Both of these guys had some dope one-liners. Boldy James had that Dopey and Snow White line, the pig wordplay. Then Mikey Rocks, I like those scale lines at the end of his verse. Showing off a little humor there too. I rock with that one. This is Wrong Side of Town. The vocals right there definitely give me Western movie vibes, playing that Indiana Jones theme.
I see when it happened.
Ooh, I love that guitar.
He squeezing the clap, left him bleeding in traffic. He would have blasted, and they would have been finished. However it happened, Anything to prevent.
He's showing off another flow. This is dope.
Only checks and them balances. All my young niggas savages. All them little niggas killers. Tell baby girls slow it down. For the truth, fuck around and ticket. Big bag in the seat cushion. Ain't no questions asked, I'm the Riddler. Don't be bitching and bitching.
I like that line. No questions asked, he the Riddler. I like that verse. It didn't have the same level of imagery as the verses did on the first two tracks. It was mostly just braggadocio, but that flow was sick.
Hellbound. Niggas gotta go the whole 12 rounds just to box me. Brick a China doll, no Fox. Are you still down? No John B. Start getting high, third grade.
Hey, y'all know the song Are You Still Down by John B.
Back in 9-3, kept a mid kid, no first aid. Wish in the scope with a sign. Before I signed to the street life, ink my name on the side street.
For the record, I'm kind of glad he ain't signing in the scope. Griselda definitely fit him better. The streets sound like they fit him better too.
For homecoming, I was locked deep. Selling softball quarter waters for the 400 like I'm YG.
Yeah. For the 400. 400, YG ad-lib. That's a tough line. Easy 3 for 3. The production from RichGaines right now is impressive. The instrumentals on this project so far sound different from any other thing that Boldy James has rapped on. It's dope hearing something unique in the neo-mafioso lane of hip-hop, because you know the beats, they have a certain formula to them. So it's good seeing Boldy James and RichGaines push the boundaries. I love that twanky guitar. It had a dope chorus on it too. Two good verses from Boldy James. I think the flow was definitely the star of the show, because he didn't have the same level of storytelling as the first two songs, but still strong performance from Boldy. Let's get an Electric Blue. Oh yeah, this is very different. It's straight up rock guitars.
Sky Electric Blue, 911 coupe. I remember Drew trying to stretch a deuce. Now we pressing food.
It's not expected trap drums up at this. Dope so early, he got high cholesterol. That's dope. That's a funny line.
A penny saved is a penny earned. Fiends half-ass nickel slick. Blood finna drop me off a dime piece. Made a quarter out of short and zombies.
That's tough. He had a chain scheme. He started with penny saved, penny earned, nickel quarter, dime pieces. 7-6
Sawyer boys got some blow same color as the concrete.
Blow same color as the concrete, that off-white dope. And then Concrete, how he call himself Concreature.
With a 504 with that Will Ferrell for the 21. That's a little hero.
Tough, dog. That was a tough line. He said pull up with that Will Ferrell, which is a clever way of saying dope because they call Heroin Boy. Then he said Lil Hero, 21 Lil Hero the rapper.
18 for the pastries, whipping gingerbread. I'm the baker's man.
Yo, why this nigga got so many nicknames for drugs?
Jackson Hewitt ain't no tax included. Me and Streets, we some dog fighters. Turned the half a key to a masterpiece.
Yeah, this nigga got unlimited ammo when it comes to drug slang, but dog fighting, dog refer to heroin. They both pushing heroin. Come on, man.
Had to step it up and get my levels right. 2-step to blow, that's a pedal bite. Me and Ty's closer than some step brothers. Get you stepped on like some dentin. Finna take the pennies off the pint chain like a bowl of methamphetamines. Told bro the pants too big, need a small.
Yo, hold on. That nigga said chain like methamphetamines because they call meth glass and then you can have glass in your chain. Yo, why is this nigga punching like this?
Niggas telling me the 28, granny still get him for the 17.
He got that senior discount on the work. That's sick. Out of these 4 beats, they've all been really out of the box for this lane of hip hop. I felt the rock influence on the other 3 songs, but this one really embraced that rock sound more than the other 3 did. But then they pushed the boundary even further by adding the trap drums, giving this rock rap fusion feel. Boldy was out here punching like Little Mac. God dang, that was an old nigga reference. Little Mac, the nigga on Mike Tyson Punch Out. But he had several really crafty, clever punchlines. Still showing a lot of variety when it comes to the flows. Let's get into SOS.
TLC, we creep, set enough, then Boldy put him to sleep. Man, it's grimy and the tricks get I'll be the one that eat. Chopper sounds burned up, made it hard for me to sleep. So I jumped into the streets, mama worried, couldn't even sleep.
Let's be real, it's like 2 different types of Detroit rappers. You got the niggas who can really spit, Boldy, Elzai, and then you got the other niggas who just sound like different colorways of T Grizzly. This Chucksa dude gonna have an uphill battle with me because I ain't really trying to hear it, but let's see what he got.
No, the ops be out here hating, so we limo tinted it up. But show us one up.
Yeah, this ain't it.
Ain't worried about low none.
No guts, no glory on the road to riches. Standing on stills, niggas stood tall on that business. Catch a nigga fish ball and we gon' throw a tantrum. Tinted up big pole like we going camping.
That's a bar. Tinted up big pole, we going camping. How the tent got the poles on it and then tinted windows with the pole. Nigga.
Double R's, double parked in front your nana house. Don't want no parts in them gorilla sharks. You burn bananas out.
Why is this nigga not on beat? I appreciate him getting into different flows, but he really channeling his Blueface I'm allergic to the beat type flow.
SWV, we make it rain down. All of this fancy footwork, I feel like James Brown.
You know, since they had two Detroit rappers there, I'm gonna keep with the Detroit thing. I sound like they was like the Detroit Lions. You know, it had the pieces, but just not great. And I was rooting for you. Chucks was just like the Detroit Lions defense, you know, just not good. But then RichGaines and Boldy James, they were good individually. I think the beat was good. I think Boldy had a lot of dope lines. But why was it not on beat? It's not like one of them fan-made songs where they made a beat and they put a random verse over the top of their beat, but they don't really understand beats per minute, so it don't match up. That's what this song sounded like. Had good individual elements, didn't come together. This is Hunnit Sales. These keys sound smooth. I like this.
You ain't never been in hell on a cold day. Still made 100 sales on a slow day.
It's like a horse front porch. Your dope so stepped on. How you try to backdoor from the gas home? Took a spin around the block.
Yo, Mikey been punching a little bit. He always had the charisma, and he'll say a witty one-liner from time to time, but I like the little wordplay. Stepped on like the front porch, playing into the backdoor line.
Got the Jeep and the Tesla in my garage. Both bricks took a like one, not as hard.
His delivery's been good.
I came here for a scale. Not to fix my yard.
Ice Blu-ray, that's 4K. Mix the Kettle One with the Rosé. Playing with the bands, no Coldplay.
Kettle One with Rosé? That sound like it might be. I don't really like Rosé like that, but that sound like he might have did something.
If I sold like Tito, plug with them kilo, all about me like Do-Ray. You ain't never been in hell on a cold day.
That's clever. I ain't even finna pull out the vocals, but that's clever.
On a slow day. You ain't never been in hell on a cold day. Still made 100 sales on a slow day.
That was a smooth beat, and I like how he's incorporating these trap drums to these beats. The keys, especially on the sample, sounded great. I thought Mikey Rocks had another really good verse. Now, is he as technically sound as Boldy James? Nah, but I like how he's playing in Boldy James' world with the little coke talk, the plug talk, and he still has his signature charismatic delivery. Boldy James, punch for punch, he's one of the best punchers in the game right now. He has more of a subtle style than just a haymaker style, but the lines are really clever and they work because of how vivid his drug storytelling is. Tough song, like the other Mikey Rocks and Boldy James song. Only complaint I got is that one could have went longer, but tough. This is still slapping.
Drop grams, Jay's yoking, smoking out of pop cans. Hot damn, here we go again with them rock scenes.
His bass sound tough.
Chops. This a rock band, disrespect 50
I like that.
Send his ass to Obland.
Sending the Opland, that's hard.
To get your man dropped, top him with a headshot. Baseball diamonds, nigga got it out the sandlot.
Grimy, dog. Grimy.
Still slapping
Cyclops, the red dot, that's tough.
Let it lock up in the pot, twisted like some dreadlocks.
He's spitting.
They having babies out of wedlock with all this fine china. Turn the kitchen to a sweatshop. Cut his bitch down.
Ooh, the fine China sweatshop. Ugh.
Cut his bitch down. She tried to hit me with her best shot.
5224706.
Here they go. T Grizzly in a different colorway.
Millions through them 15-minute calls. That's a half a
Not that I like T Grizzly either. He's just the first nigga that came to mind.
Who the next to can will cover costs? Fuck a back end, I'm doing somersaults. Couple murder cases, somersaults.
When Brolo catch you down bed, I just hope you ready. I'm probably OT somewhere ducked off, fucking on a wedding. When the spaghetti heads cut you down with the machetes.
This rhyme scheme is tough. If he ain't underground, he a veggie, which is double entendre, because if he not dead, he a vegetable, and then vegetables grow in the ground.
Pyrex Vision nominated for another Grammy. Smiley, but I ain't friendly. Savage like my cousin Randy.
I'm rocking with that one. That's not my favorite beat on the album, but it was still solid. Boldy James' first verse, that might have been my favorite verse on the album. He was spitting back to back, punching. Wordplay is just too clever. And then that's that gritty storytelling that he's known for. Detroit King Tate, that wasn't nothing to write home about, but he was solid. Unlike what we heard from Chuckster and what I'm sure we're going to hear from Guwop later in this album, it wasn't a generic coke talk. It wasn't generic brags. He was talking that street talk a little bit, but wasn't up to par with what Boldy was spitting, just better than what I was expecting. Boldy's second verse, that third verse was good too, but that first one was different. This is no extender.
Concrete is 227, that's a lot of fugitives. I feel safer in the zone, cause that's where all the shooters is. That's where all the skin poppers, that's where all the tutors live. Doggy talking all that work, can barely even move a split. Never had to.
He's intentionally using white noise on his beat and it sounds good.
Jam, never had to move a rig.
Gives the beat this cloudy feel.
Never air fried a brick, never had to shoot a stick, ain't had Jack to do it.
Shout out to Westside Gun on Michael Urban.
Never had to use a seed, took 3 bricks from his plug as soon as you renege.
I like the subtle plug wordplay, talking about getting money from the plug, and then if you renege on the plug, you get plugged as in killed.
Thuggin' with that stick dancer, cuz he the mix master. Pirate's vision, where dropping glass like it's lens craft. Buzz over show, shot,
like that.
Baby bottle full.
He's had 3 different drum patterns on his beat.
He asked me if I hit his thought, honestly don't remember. This Bocella, half a man of that old yellow. Out of this, 1,000 grits is what I'm trying to finagle.
Bro, this man might as well just start a drug rap encyclopedia. Just the nicknames he's calling the drugs in and of itself is clever. He said he got that old yeller instead of heroin. Come on, man.
Count slits him out the hits, 30,000 a Lego, another 60 in the sofa.
Bro, this is what I'm talking about. He said 30,000 a Lego. You know, you call Legos bricks.
And that's a couch potato for the cream cheese. I can re-rock a bagel, selling pints of
Couch potato line into the cream cheese line into the bagel line.
We do this shit in real life. This shit is not a fable. Come meet the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brick Van X.
Okay, cool song. The beat's interesting. They're really keeping it novel with how much variety's in these beats. They are all laid back, but you get a good mix with how different the drum patterns have been. He's went from drumless to these really reverbed out, I guess, live drums. Now he's been using trap drums the past several tracks. I don't love the beat just because I thought it was a little bit abrupt how they looped it, but I think it was still solid, and I think it adds to the vibe of the album. Boldy's been rapping, man. The punching has been really on point, and even when he's not haymakering you up, the little subtle punches or the subtle lines, they really make every verse enjoyable. Just for me listening, it's like I'm glued to every single line. Let's get into Never Had a Friend.
Never had a friend like me, nobody know where we be, selling dope.
Oh, I love this beat.
Coke in the clink, I'll be home in the blink.
Those soft pianos, the drums.
Hell, it get cold in the G, had to get used to washing all my clothes in the sink. Now that's why I sell jumping out the grave.
Prison bars. I guess
shit
jail bars. Did Boldy do time in prison? Regardless, he was behind some kind of bars. I like the imagery right there.
Stay sober and I'll snort shit out the smoke and I drink. Pop another North, roll up another leaf. Pull up another foe on the road, me and Bink.
I love how they mix this song right here. Boldy has a really dejected, monotonous flow. People knock that, but it's like he's playing into that right here. The way that it's mixed, it's like the whole song is engulfed within Boldy's voice. And the fact that he sounds extra dejected really plays into those themes of like isolation that he rapped on in that verse. And this I run in the chorus saying you never had a friend like me.
Mouth throat in the chin, same night, tried to spin, niggas slid on me. Try to do me like that, then my nigga Dopey. You be thinking they your fam, but them niggas don't be.
Hey man, coke rappers got feelings too. It's always, can you serve me? Never, how can I be of service? And Boldy just laid it out right there. Yeah, I like that song a lot. That beat was too smooth. This isn't a typical type of samples that pair well with trap drums, but RichGaines is doing a really good job of it. I already pointed how dejected Boldy James sound, and then those bars just ooze that feeling of loneliness. A really emotional song. Boldy normally just give us the ins and outs of the drug game, and this is more so like the ins and outs of his mental state. I really appreciate the variety and the switch up. This is Frozen.
Pulled up off of 8, let it take period.
He's using 808s right now, but they have more of an R&B feel.
Say I wasn't here, never had a job on the block, I had experience. Only advice I ever took is serious.
Never had a job and on the block I had experience. That remind me of them opening lines of Main Drum and Nickel. What's the name of that first song? It was Medusa, where he's talking about him filling out the job application.
Shit, my mama used to say I wasn't here, never had a job on the block.
That's another really emotional song.
Advice I ever took is serious, but you never put a question mark, God put a period.
I like that, don't put a question mark, put a period.
Looking at that Elvis Presley. When it got dark, even my shadow left. Found out who was for me and who really loved me.
This shadow left.
When it count, when this shit get ugly. Hit the dope over the head, and I did the Doug. Way to work, wet yellow brick like a pissy hug.
Boldy James doing the Dougie over the pot is a wild image.
All of the sticks and the drums, they come with hang time. Nigga rub me the wrong way, you getting gang time.
That's a really smooth song. He went for more of an R&B feel. Boldy James, he really in his emo bag right now. This plays right into that last song where he was talking about loneliness, and now he's more so talking about like depression and self-medicating with these drugs. I really like Boldy James getting more vulnerable, and he's really leaning into his delivery. Like that monotone flow can be a fault at points, but it's really portraying this feeling of just heartlessness and dejection. Now, I do gotta point out the elephant in the room. These are a lot of really laid back, mellow songs back to back. The album, I do think, probably can benefit from 1 or 2 up-tempo tracks, but I do think each song individually sounds good. Just a little note for the pacing of the album. Let's get into B22s.
Promise you will never testify in the court of law as an eyewitness. Run the play like a screen pad. Brian Penny said down to Karen. Lola Bunny, she in love with Carrots.
Lola Bunny, she in love with Carrots Gold.
Back and sealing up them gift wrap. Trying to double up and split the pair. Girl, you know I got them big racks. Real slumdog millionaire.
That whole verse was basically about him dripping his girl out, but his low register delivery remind me back in the day we used to be on the phone with a girl and you had to like make your voice a little deep and you had to talk like this. That's what that sound like.
Stuffed her up like a teddy bear with so many blues in her daily hair. Counted up ice, had a clip, big pole on me like it's metal gear.
I do like that dichotomy though of he's buying his girl off this expensive stuff, but the flip side of it is she basically a mule for him and that's why he willing to spend money on her.
It's been litty, double D's on the top, this bitch got big titties. Catch her out from across the street, knock his head off with a big streak. Bleed him like a dog and he feeling froggy sleepy, think he missed pig.
Man, I love the concept of that song. He raps the entire thing from the perspective of his relationship with his girl, but it touches on all the other themes of the album. Of course, the drug dealing, but also into that loneliness theme that he's been playing into with the last 2 songs, saying that she's the only one who's been there for him. He had a subtle little switch on that second verse too, or like the second half of it. It had Tupac, me and my girlfriend themes because he switched from talking about his girlfriend, his actual girl, to talking about his girl with the undertone being the gun is his girlfriend, just like with the Me and My Girlfriend song My Pop. If I was the executive producer of this album, an up-tempo song would be next. This is 8 Days. I love the rock fusion that's been here.
Got hit with the package, shot OT was back in 2 weeks. Touch back down to AZ, now I'm feeling rapper unique. Shout out to the godson, I got niggas out in QB. Chain so fucking litty, would've thought I signed a QC.
That's another example of that slick extended wordplay. He was basically rapping about taking trips to these different cities, making drug plays. Some of the cities he named outright, like Arizona. It's not a city, but you get me. And then others were just subtle reference to the city, like when he was talking about Chain, looked like he got signed to QC, the Atlanta label.
Heavy press might get nominated for a Grammy. Ran it up, forgot to stretch out there and put the hammy. I was the one before they even knew.
Forgot to stretch, almost pulled a hammy.
Had it in me. These niggas know I might be smiley, but was never friendly.
My last 8 days, I probably sold 8 things. Broke the other 8 down in the 8-4 ways. 62 to 104. That's some good cocaine, man. My
62 to 104. Boldy said he didn't stretch. Guwap definitely stretched.
told him send me 50 more and about 8 more days. Slid him a room.
I see what he's going for.
808. It's insurance on the work, so we A-okay.
Okay, there was nothing wrong with that song. Just like I said, I probably would have did an up-tempo song there. The album's getting kind of long. The individual parts sounded good, but it's gonna drag if they keep this tempo the same. But in a vacuum, solid song. I think Boldy had a good verse. His rhyme schemes were dope. I'm really loving the song structure that he's been showing and the attention to details, both from the instrumentation to the musicality from Boldy. Guwap, you know, he had a verse that only his homies could love. You know, I was talking about if I was the executive producer. If I was the executive producer, he wouldn't be on this project. You feel me? You know, I see what he went for with like the whole 8 wordplay, but it was kind of basic, not gonna lie. But you know, on the bright side, I wasn't expecting more. Let's get into Tell It All. Eastern vibes.
Never seen a nigga shoot or get shot. He look like he gon' tell. I can tell he got used to not using his Glock, like he tucking his tail.
Hey, RichGaines came through with that snake charmer type beat. You feel me? The flying rug type beat.
Got some niggas from Saginaw, used to pull it down off a 6 mile of metal talk, back and forth like some paddleboard. Heard the fist press down.
Back and forth like paddleball. You know what? That remind me of the bullets back and forth like table tennis line from West Side Gun.
Got a plug in a bitch of Brazil, 35 plus for the brick with the seal. Wanna know how my bag in Kentucky and I'm getting money in Michigan still. All the niggas he killed, the rest of his life, no, he not trying to spend it in
He's
jail.
floating right now.
That's when I pussy niggas showed his true colors like a gender reveal. Cool Bill caught a few sales, came with them all, took a few L's. We done seen it all, we been through it all in gasoline draws. I've been through hell.
Yo, the technical rhyming's been on point too. He had that rapid fire 2-syllable, then switched to a different internal rhyme on the second bar, and then came back to it at the end of the second bar. You know, I said a lot. You ain't gotta follow all that. Just know it was tough.
Sub let him shoot Krill, Crelly came home, raised the murder rate, then went back to jail.
Came home, raised the murder rate. That's tough.
Much prefer to hate never get you killed. When he killed himself, had me stressed out, trying to piece together what he left out. What got connected through baby Griselda. Every time she greet me with a kiss.
I like that. Talking about baby Griselda, he had a plug that was a woman, but that playing the fact that he signed a Griselda.
Like he tucking his tail. I can look at him, tell he don't do this a lot.
The song was definitely a highlight on this album. I love that sample. Whatever that woodwind instrument is, you know, back in the day when we used to play the recorders, in my head, I was sounding like how this beat sound. That beat was tough. And then Boldy James was spitting. His technical rhyme was really on point. I love the storytelling on that second verse, talking about his man who snitched, ended up killing himself. I was grimy, and speaking of grimy, that first verse, just pure filth and grit. That song was tough. You know, we're going to get into Cat Eyes. Once again, if I was executive producer, the album would be ending about now, but let's see if they can keep our attention. This is Cat Eyes.
I saw you bleeding, nigga, leaving baptized. Need the strength to fight all of my demons in my head. I had to ask God. See my father on his deathbed. Never seen him shed a tear. Can see it ever so clear today.
There's been some really good mixing on this album. Normally when I mention mixing, it's because with the rap I be reviewing, these niggas don't have the biggest budgets and they be trying to cut a little corners when it comes to the audio engineers. But this is really clever because his voice is already in this low register, so they just feel it out and just embrace that. It gives a more immersive sound.
My auntie broke down with granddad, dad. Fucking Instagram, I was really in the trap life. Really in good standing with bad company. I'm from the D where everybody getting money under me. Never did no unemployment scams. Ran me up a M, butter bought him turkey. Me and Birdie play a butter rim. Auntie spilled her cup of gin. Burning back the bad squares, lighting up again. Monkey tweaking, trying to stuff a stem.
Hey man, sad niggas make the best music. This is probably the most dejected I've heard Boldy, and it sounds good. You know, probably would have been better to hear this for 40 minutes as opposed to 55, but it sounds really good. That first verse was just pure pain when he was talking about his granddad dying. I think it was his auntie who was on the stem, grandma going through it, and then that second verse, it was just painting that Detroit environment, but just all the negative friends getting locked up. And it was crazy because he's at the top of the drug game and it's still just no satisfaction and fulfillment in it. Really raw song, and I like that minimal beat. This is Muchas Gracias. This album needed an up-tempo song.
Got introduced to the connect, my handshake was firm. Niggas know I'm school teaching less. Niggas hate to learn.
Gracias, bought your bitch a bag because she bagged it up. Money coming in, can't count it fast enough. Add it up.
You know, 50 minutes into a cult rap project, I'm not trying to hear no Detroit King tape. There's just no other way around it.
In a fucking no broke bitch, but if we get money, we can make love. Fuck a Draco, give me a trace.
It's not a bad verse.
Ew,
feature choices getting into questionable territory. Like, throw one or two of these niggas on here. Don't throw them all on here. Some of your homies just ain't the best rappers. Not a bad verse from Detroit King tape. It's just like Death by 1,000 Cuts. You feel me? That also wasn't the strongest verse from Boldy. It did have good technical rapping, but it just doesn't have the same level of imagery or emotion that the imagery on the first half of the album had, or the emotion that the second half of the album had. His beat was a tad bit basic, but I do like it. He did the thing that I've seen in a lot of trap songs in the last couple of years where you don't really use a traditional harmony, you use the bass itself as the harmony. So this song sounded a little more trappish than the other songs because of that. Not my favorite song on the album. It's not bad. I probably like it a little bit more on a 30-minute album, but this is another Bando.
Bro, keep calling home, he just wanna kick it.
That sounded like Don Toliver.
Wanna know the ticket, told him hold on, had to click over on my cricket. Trapping in the drug zone, all we know is bricking. Used to post on Margarita, copping balls some biscuits.
This beat is hard.
Ether, now we on in Memphis.
I did not know who RichGaines was before this project. That nigga nice.
The coke be so expensive. On the mall in that GT, feeling so relentless. Morgantown West V, niggas know the business. Quarter pound to a key, now you owe an entry.
Me and bro was trapping to the stove. No, I got my.
Here they go. I thought Jay and Money was the nigga sounding like Don Toliver, but nope. Here come another Detroit nigga with a verse.
Remember me and Chuck, we was blunt blowing, trying to get up out the slump, moving slow motion. Pull me up a double cup, I just love potion. Switch the flow up, that's gonna keep the cash flowing.
I was one of the better songs on the second half of the album. I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of shocked. I was expecting Jay and Money to be trash. He was pretty good. Outside of Mikey Rocks, who I think had a couple of strong features, he's been the strongest rap feature. I don't know who that was on the chorus, but that sounded good as well. Boldy sounded good, and I think the highlight of this whole song was the beat. For a trap to be such a really common sound, that's the mainstream sound right now. these beats sound really unique because he's mixing this mellowed out, reverb, watery set of samples with trap drums. Normally you get more of a spacey, ethereal feel, kind of cloudish feel when you're using trap drums. It's a unique style of production, and I think it sounds really good. Let's finally close this thing out with Dead Game. Like the little horn screaming, man.
Say she stay worried about me, cause what I do for a living. She fell in love with a killer, but I value her opinion. She chose to part ways and couldn't part with her decision. Nothing but heartbreak and pain, all that I've been feeling. Was starving with my niggas, now it's marble on the ceiling. I'm arguably the realest / hardest ever did it.
Dang, Boldy should do this more often. He sounds really good when he's getting to these non-coke rap songs. I mean, there's definitely still the undertone of she understands that Boldy's a coke dealer, but him just being vulnerable, talking about relationships, and this one a relationship that she couldn't stay in it. This is really dope from Boldy.
Skeletons in the closet that we can never revive. I remember we was at the old crib, measuring pies. Glass table with the wood legs, stretching them. Good sex, every day was extra. Showing up at functions drunk.
I can't believe Boldy turned Mikey Rocks into a coke rapper. That's the definition of a bad influence. Not bad influences in Mikey Rocks got words. I'm talking about like selling drugs is bad, kid. Yeah, say no to drugs, kid. Their program. Y'all out here letting that lying down.
Sox fans, I seen him in all black sitting in that block van. I crossed my heart, cut my palm open, and then we lock hands.
I think that's a really strong closer to the album. I really love Boldy playing into these different conceptual themes on the second half of the album. He's had multiple songs, Cat Eyes, Never Had a Friend, and now this song where he's talking about these relationships. He's still putting you in that drug zone environment, but now we get in these like side characters and other perspectives. I think it adds a lot of much needed variety in a lane of hip hop where, you know, you basically rapping about the same thing every single song or every single album. That wasn't the case here. I think Mikey Rocks had a good verse. This is the lightest out of his 3 verses here. I do enjoy the fact that he played into the themes of the song. It just wasn't that profound. It wasn't as emotional as Boldy James verse. Not the worst feature on this project though by a long shot. Overall, I think this is a really good project. It does have a couple glaring flaws, but what it does right, it does really well. For one, this production I think was extremely good. From start to finish, it was a sound that Boldy James hasn't rapped on, but it's a sound that complimented him extremely well. RichGaines pushed the envelope with a lot of these beats, from that rap and rock fusions that he did a couple of times on the beginning of the album, straight up trap bangers, that distortion that he throws on the samples. Then most of the beats are really moody, which I think played right into what Boldy was trying to portray on this album. And I have very little complaints with Boldy's rapping itself. And when he wanted to give you the drug talk, it was as vivid as anybody in this lane. When he wanted to punch your head off, he had some really creative wordplay, one-liners. And then he got into that emotional bag on the second half of the album. Now the flaw is, one, that was too long of an album, especially for how down-tempo most of the songs were. It probably should have been 35 minutes, 40 max. Not that any of these songs were particularly bad. He just probably should have picked the best 10 and been done with it. And then second, these features, I mean, it didn't look good on paper and they didn't exceed expectations. You had a couple bright spots with a couple of the Mikey Rocks features, and then Jay Amani was pretty good, but the rest of them were bad to okay, especially with the length of this project. I'm not trying to get, 35 minutes invested to a project and hear Goo Wop and Detroit King tape. But overall, I still think this was an excellent addition to Boldy James' discography. It's as good as his top projects like May Drum and Nichols, Bo Jackson, Price of Tea in China. No, I think it's a cut under projects like that, but it definitely adds to that streak of really good projects from Boldy James. Boldy's really demanding his respect as a lyricist.